Ceasefire fractured, Nscn, IM's violent legacy, and history of conflict with Indian Authority and others. Introduction: Ceasefire breached in Assam. On July 2, 2024, 3 suspected militants of the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, Isaac-Miva faction, or Nscn, IM, were killed in a gunfight with Indian security forces in Assam's Dima Hasao district. The clash unfolded in the Nkubin-Hira Kilo area during a search operation prompted by an extortion threat made to the National Highways Authority of India. As Assam Police Special Units and Assam Rifles personnel approached, the militants reportedly opened fire, triggering a retaliatory exchange that left them dead. A cache of arms and ammunition was recovered from the site. This violent encounter is not an isolated incident, but part of a long and turbulent history between the Indian state and the Nscn, IM, despite the formal ceasefire agreement signed in 1997. The persistence of insurgent violence raises pressing questions about the durability of peace agreements, the unresolved grievances of ethnic communities like the Kukis, and the Indian government's strategy in managing these layered conflicts. The Kuki conflict, a dark chapter in northeast India. Between 1992 and 1997, the Kuki community faced systematic and brutal persecution at the hands of the Nscn IM. The group's armed wing, the Naga-Lim Guards, NLG, executed a coordinated series of attacks on Kuki villages across Manipur and Nagaland, resulting in the deaths of over 1,000 people and the displacement of more than 100,000 Kukis. The Jupi massacre of September 13, 1993, remains one of the most horrific massacres. 115 Kuki men, women and children were slaughtered in a single day. To this day, the Kuki community solemnly commemorates Sakhnitni, Kuki Black Day, every September 13th in memory of the victims. Though the Nscn IM has consistently denied orchestrating these atrocities, claiming instead they were acts of self-defense provoked by Kuki attempts to seize Moray town, few outside the organization accept this explanation. The Kuki narrative, supported by survivor testimonies and eyewitness accounts, presents the violence as a deliberate campaign of ethnic cleansing aimed at displacing Kukis from their ancestral lands to pave the way for a proposed Greater Nagaland or Nagalim. The Tangkhul factor and the rise of expansionism. The Nscn IM is predominantly led by the Tangkhul Naga tribe, with its powerful leader Twingaleng Muiva hailing from Ukhrul district in Manipur. The organization's dream of Nagalim, a sovereign homeland uniting all Naga-inhabited areas across Nagaland, Manipur, Assam, and Arunachal Pradesh, has been the driving force of the Naga nationalist movement for decades. However, these territorial ambitions clash directly with the ancestral lands of other ethnic groups, particularly the Kukis. Many Kukis view the Nscn, IM's expansionist agenda as a calculated effort to erase their historical presence, carried out through terror, mass displacement, and systematic land grabs. Ceasefire under strain, a false dawn for peace. The 1997 ceasefire agreement between the Indian government and the Nscn-IM was meant to end decades of bloodshed. Yet on the ground, the ceasefire has often worked more as a protective shield for the group's continued militancy than as a genuine step toward peace. Extortion operations, ambushes, weapons trafficking, and intimidation of civilians have remained routine, as demonstrated by the July 2024 encounter in Assam. In recent years, the Nscn-IM has even threatened to break away from the 27-year ceasefire, demanding third-party mediation and pressing for a separate Naga flag and constitution, demands the Indian government has thus far resisted. The unresolved political demands and the absence of justice for past victims have led to widespread frustration, particularly among non-Naga communities who feel ignored or betrayed by the peace process. The Kuki-Meitei conflict. A strategic distraction? A critical yet often neglected dimension of this saga is the recent Kuki-Meitei conflict in Manipur. While some media frame it as spontaneous ethnic rioting, many in the Kuki community interpret it as part of a broader scheme, a design to seize Kuki ancestral land and divert public attention away from the long-standing atrocities committed by Nscn, IM, since the 1980s. Over decades, Kukis have faced multi-front assaults from Naga insurgents, from rival ethnic militias, and from state policies that threaten their land rights. Recent government actions in Manipur, including redefining forest areas and cancelling Kuki land titles, have amplified fears of dispossession. Against this backdrop, the Kuki-Meitei conflict is seen by many Kukis as not just another communal clash, but part of a coordinated strategy to push Kukis out and to cover up the unresolved legacy of Naga-Kuki violence. In the view of Kuki leaders, the Meitei-Kuki violence provides a convenient distraction, effectively erasing the historical record of Nscn, IM's aggression, and recasting Kukis as aggressors rather than long-standing victims. Questions for the Indian government: silence and accountability. The Indian government's decision to enter into peace negotiations with the Nscn, IM, without addressing its past crimes against Kukis raises urgent and painful questions. Why was a ceasefire signed without mechanisms for accountability and justice for the Kuki community? What steps have been taken to ensure the safety and rehabilitation of Kuki survivors and displaced persons? Does the government risk legitimizing Nscn IM's territorial claims by engaging in prolonged negotiations while ignoring the rights of other communities? What safeguards are in place to prevent new waves of dispossession or violence against the Kukis? Without addressing these questions, the so-called peace process remains hollow and one-sided. Conclusion: toward a just and lasting peace, the Nscn-IM's ceasefire was intended to usher in an era of peace and stability. Instead, it has exposed the dangers of selective peace-building, where the grievances of one insurgent group are prioritized, while the suffering of its victims is pushed into the shadows. For the Kuki community, peace means more than the absence of armed clashes. It means the acknowledgement of historical injustices, the delivery of reparative justice, the restoration of ancestral lands, and the assurance of equal political rights. Without these guarantees, no agreement can bring real peace to northeast India. As violence and displacement continue to plague the region, justice for the Kukis must rise to the top of the national agenda. Justice in the form of separate administration for the Kukis. Only then can India hope to achieve a durable and inclusive peace. Sources: Scroll-in, 3 suspected Naga militants killed in gunfight in Assam. The Indian Express, Kuki Massacre, 1993, as centre looks to Naga peace deal, a reminder from the past. Wikipedia, National Socialist Council of Nagaland. Deccan Herald, Naga insurgent group Nscn-IM threatens to break 27-year-long ceasefire. Disclaimer: this article has been compiled and stitched together by Zalengam Media using information, facts, and perspectives drawn from the above-mentioned public sources. Zalengam Media is not responsible for the original content, accuracy, or opinions contained in these sources. This article is intended solely to bring together publicly available reports into a coherent summary for the purpose of public awareness. Readers are encouraged to consult the original sources for a fuller understanding of the issues discussed.